What do a filmmaker, a political staffer, and a youth activist have in common? In today's America, they have all become symbols and targets, not casualties of a traditional war, but of a new kind of conflict, one fought in the forums of the internet, the chambers of political power, and the darkest corners of the human psyche. Welcome to a special episode. I'm your host, Andy Khan. Today's episode takes us into the heart of a troubling phenomena, one that's shaping not just our politics, but our perception of people themselves. We are examining a pattern that's grown more visible, more volatile, and more dangerous over the past decade. The way individual, often public figures, are stripped of their humanity and recast as ideological symbols. These aren't just people with opinions or affiliations. They become avatars, living embodiment of belief systems, political movements, or cultural grievances. And once that transformation occurs, something insidious follows. The idea that harming the symbol is not only acceptable but righteous. This is not violence in traditional sense, not the kind waged between armies or across borders. It's a psychological and cultural war fought in the echo chambers of social media, the rhetoric of partisan media, and the minds of those who feel aggrieved, betrayed, and radicalized. In this war, the battlefield is symbolic, but the casualties are real, and the justification is often built on myth. We call them the martyrs of the mind, not because they chose martyrdom, but because their death, their suffering, or even their visibility became a kind of ideological currency. Their stories are rewritten, repurposed, and weaponized. And in that process, the line between critic and dehumanization disappears. That's the pattern we are here to explore. That's the warning we need to confront. Our first story begins not with a politician, but a storyteller. David Crowley was a filmmaker and a veteran passionate about a project called Grey State. It was a dystopian thriller about the collapse of American society under government tyranny, and it tapped into a growing current of conspiracy minded thoughts. Its trailer went viral in these communities, a vision of future they feared was coming. But to the rest of the world, David Crowley was mostly an unknown. That changed in 2015 when Crowley, his wife Komal, and their young daughter were found dead in their Minnesota home. The official ruling was murder suicide, a tragic outcome of personal pressure, but for the very online communities that celebrated his work, this fact based conclusion was unacceptable. David Crowley had to be a martyr. Myths sprouted instantly. He was killed by a shadow government to silence his film, to prevent him from exposing the truth. The man was raised, replaced by an avatar for a cause, a chilling warning of how narrative can completely overwrite reality. While David Crowley's transformation into a martyr unfolded quietly, his death, reinterpreted through digital myth making and online conspiracy forums, the fate of Leo Brent Bozell IV was brutally immediate and unmistakably physical. Bozell, a rising figure within conservative youth politics, was not just a staffer at Turning Point USA. He was part of an ideological bloodstream. As the grandson of Brent Bozell Jr., a towering figure in the conservative media movement and founder of the Media Research Center, Leo carried both legacy and ambition. He was young, charismatic, and deeply embedded in the machinery of right wing activism, often seen organizing campus events and shaping messaging strategies aimed at energizing Gen Z conservatives. His death, however, shattered that trajectory in a violent incident that stunned both allies and adversaries. Bozell was killed in what authorities describe as a targeted attack, one that unfolded not in the shadows of detailed speculation but in the stark reality of blood and consequence. Unlike Crowley, whose demise invited interpretation, Bozell's killing left little room for ambiguity. It was a direct assault on a living symbol of a movement, and it marked a chilling escalation in the polarization of violence. February 2023, authorities allege he was shot and killed by a former friend. The alleged shooter was reported to have become increasingly radicalized by the left wing ideologies, specifically citing Bozell's political work as motive. This wasn't random violence. Bozell was not killed for who he was as an individual, but for what he represented, a movement, an ideology his alleged killer despised. He became a symbol, and symbols can be destroyed. The public reaction was predictably fractal. Grief from his allies, and in the darkest corners of the internet, wild celebration from a fringe few. Another life reduced to a political point. Charlie Kirk's death marked a new threshold, one where ideological violence didn't just strike behind closed doors, but in full public view. As the founder of Turning Point USA, Kirk had become one of the most recognizable faces in the conservative youth politics. His speeches were fiery, his social media presence relentless, and his influence undeniable. To supporters, he was a champion of free speech and traditional values. To critics, he was a provocateur who thrived on polarization. But to the man who pulled the trigger on Georgia College campus, Kirk was something else entirely. A symbol of everything he believed was wrong with America. The assassination was swift and deliberate. Kirk was mid-sentence when gunmen opened fire, an act captured on live stream and instantly disseminated across every corner of the internet. The shooter, later identified as a former student radicalized by the fringe ideology, he posted cryptic warnings in the days leading up to the attack. Authorities described it as a politically motivated killing. The aftermath was predictably chaotic. Partisan media spun competing narratives online. Communities erupted in grief and fury, and Kirk's legacy was instantly reframed. He was no longer just a political figure. He was a martyr, and like Crowley and Bozell before him, his humanity was quickly eclipsed by the symbolic weight of his death. These are not isolated incidents. They are points on a disturbing timeline that spans the ideological spectrum. Consider a few. 2016, Seth Rich, a DNC staffer whose murder became a baseless conspiracy theory used to deflect from Russian election interference. 2021, Ashley Babbitt, the January 6th writer, shot and killed by the Capitol Police, transformed from a woman to a martyr for the Stop the Steal movement. 2020, Gretchen Whitmer, the Michigan governor targeted in a foiled kidnapping plot by anti-lockdown militia members. 2025, Melissa Hortman and Josh Shapiro, Democratic leaders attacked in their homes, allegedly for their political stance. And the man who attacked the CDC headquarters in Atlanta, claiming it was a nest of spies. The common thread isn't a single ideology. It's a process. A person is stripped of their humanity and built up as the perfect avatar for everything their opponents hate. They became a symbol, and for the lone actor, the radicalized individual swimming in the toxic soup, destroying that symbol starts to feel like a righteous act. We turn to Dr. Sophia Reyes, a political psychologist, to understand this mechanism. The human mind seeks patterns and narratives. Radicalization shortcuts this process. It provides a simple, compelling story. There is a group causing all your problems. This person embodies that group. This dehumanization is critical. You are not harming a complex human being with a family and a life. You are attacking an idea. The media ecosystem, particularly social media, acts as a force multiplier. It can turn a local tragedy into a national myth in hours, feeding the very grievances that led to the violence in the first place. When public discourse devolves to the point where individuals are no longer seen as individuals, no longer seen as complex human beings, but rather as embodiment of entire ideologies, we cross into the perilous territory. This shift strips away nuance and empathy, replacing them with abstraction and projection. A person becomes a vessel, an avatar, onto which hopes, fears, grievances, and hatreds are projected. Their actual life, their relationship, their contradictions all fade beneath the weight of what they are perceived to represent. In such a climate, language becomes combustible. The words we speak on television, the posts we share online, the casual remarks we make in conversations, they carry more than opinion. They carry symbolic power. Memes that mock, theories that vilify, narratives that flatten. These aren't just expression of thoughts. They are instruments of dehumanization. When we circulate them without scrutiny, we build up cultural scaffolding where violence feels justified, even righteous. The symbolic eclipse the person, and in that eclipse, humanity is lost. This isn't a call to avoid debate or a strong political disagreement. That is the lifeblood of democracy. This is a call to recognize the line between criticizing a policy or a position and demonizing a person. It's a call for the journalistic responsibility to report facts, not fuel fantasies. And it is a cultural reckoning. We must ask ourselves, in our quest to be right, to win the argument, have we created a world where losing means becoming a target and where winning requires making one? The martyrs of the minds are real. Their stories are a warning. The question is, are we listening? Thanks for listening. If this topic resonated with you, please share this episode. If it challenged you, sit with it. And if you are ready to go deeper, join me next time as we explore the psychology of lone actor and the digital pathway that radicalized them. Until then, stay curious, stay grounded, and remember, symbols are powerful, but people are real.